Hi, this is Courtney Terry, and this is Arts Alive, produced by Meadow Lake Studios and sponsored by the Arts Alliance of Yamhill County. My guest today is Bobbi DeVorss, a artist of many mediums. We're talking today about your metalwork, and we were talking before filming started about just kind of the variety that's just right in front of us. And you had mentioned that you've been an artist of all kinds for quite some time.
Yes. Yeah.
Where did you start with your art? Or what kind of art? And how did it...
Art has been my background forever. Went to college for art.
Okay.
Wasn't sure what medium to get into. Tried a lot of them. But it was when I landed on metal that it was just like, yeah, this is where I want to be.
Yes. And so we can try and break, but just so there's a better... I mean, this looks... I love it so much. I mean, you can just tell that it's used from recycled materials and the shape of it. And you were telling me the really cool story of kind of how you came across some of these materials.
Well, the genesis of everything was just basically doing the different mediums, and they were good, and I liked them, but it wasn't that 100%, oh my goodness. So it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago, my husband cleared off the back fencing on our farm, and the wire was out in the barnyard, and the sun hit it just right, and I know it sounds crazy, but it looked like someone had scribbled with a ballpoint pen. So I went out there and started working with the wire, and touching metal is electrifying. Love it. And it's just that was the beginning. But it also came from my grandparents, who in Nebraska had a cattle ranch 32 miles out of town, and they repurposed everything. Everything had a purpose or multiple purposes. So in the afternoon, she'd bring us inside and sit at the kitchen table, and she'd have all kinds of things like muffin tins and buttons and cereal boxes. And we were like, she goes, well, what are we going to do with these today? So that was the start. So I now look at anything and think that it has more than one purpose. So that's what got that started. And then when this started, I don't know why, but it just took off. And it keeps evolving. It's always changing. There's always something new and different that I'm coming up with. Mm-hmm. And then the jewelry, of course, is something that came later. A friend of mine ran into her on 3rd Street, and she asked me if I did small sculptures. And I said, well, yeah. And she goes, no, small sculptures. And I just went, okay. So
very small
went
sculptures.
To her studio, and it was even more electrifying. So I basically bought the farm as far as the tools and just dove into 100%. And again, touching metal is just incredible. It's my medium, I think. And I like to see what I can do with it.
Yeah, and I guess what about it makes it so exciting for you? Is it just...
I love the outdoors, Mother Nature, seeing things in an organic way, in an earthy way, and then just redoing something to repeat that in some form or another that you can enjoy on a permanent basis. So, it just keeps evolving. So I'm just excited to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, well, and that always, I feel sometimes with art and artistic medium, you can get really comfortable with something and you're really good at it, but the comfort isn't exactly what you're looking for in terms of creativity and passion.
Right. Yeah.
And so for something that's kind of always evolving and finding new ways to do it. And And are the tools similar but different for the different kinds of metalwork?
Tiny little tools.
Tiny.
The fun thing about when I started with the wire, it was needle nose pliers and leather gloves.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's all you needed.
There was nothing else to it. And I did a lot of more like wreath and basket making and things like that. And it wasn't till later I love feedback from customers, from clients. I like to hear what they think. And the rule is there's no, oh, that's nice or that's cute. Mm-hmm. No. I can't think of anything else to say, so I'll say this even though I don't like it. So the rule of thumb is brutally honest.
Yeah.
You can't change or think differently or come up with new ideas if everything is perfect. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I welcome, I like this, but, or, no, that's not my thing. And I ask, and I say, why is this not your thing? Or it could be just, I don't like it. But I like that feedback. Mm-hmm. And especially if it's honest. I want pure honesty when it comes to what people think of my work. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so, even less about maybe changing their mind about how they feel and just allowing yourself to explore how somebody else might see it or try something different.
Well, art is objective. I mean, one person's beauty is definitely not someone else's.
Yes.
And I understand that. I mean, again, doing art my whole life, that is the rule of thumb. So you're not going to please everybody, and that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I love, looking at something where somebody would say, oh, well, this is just scrap metal. But no, it's when you're looking at it and you start to see the lines and the pattern, and it does, you almost forget what you're looking at in terms of the material and where it came from once you start to see the patterns and things about it.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting about the wire pieces, especially what I have learned, is when they're in the sun, the shadows that these pieces shoot off gives it an even more three-dimensional look. And as the day goes on with the sun, it's just amazing how it looks different, mm-hmm. no matter what time of day it is.
Yes.
Or if it's in your house, it's the way it's lit when it's hanging on a wall. So it gives it more of an in-depth kind of a look. So that's another thing that's really interesting about these pieces that I've learned, is just that part of it as well. But having something that's a little more on the abstract or organic, mm-hmm. that interpretation goes into what anybody wants to think of it. So absolutely. I like that part too. Yes. Yeah.
And kind of also just letting the material, like I love this and that so for this, there were parts where, so was this kind of like this, or were there parts where you braided and twisted together? Like, I feel like you could do a little bit of both.
Actually, well, this piece especially. Now, this is wire from a fence.
Yeah.
That's all it is. My daughter mm-hmm. came out to my house once, and she says, I want to make one of these. And I said, okay, let's get down to it. It's a ball of wire, or it's folded wire that, when you tear up a fence, you put it in a compact kind of thing. But anyway, so I said, go over and get a chunk of wire. So she did, and she rolled it out. And I said, okay, what do you see in this wire? And she looks down at the ground, she looks and she goes, what are you talking about? And I said, well, the wire will kind of give you ideas as far as the shape, the style, the composition, the definition. And she goes, do you tell everybody that? I said, yes, that's the process. So she goes, well, okay, now that's the start. And I said, yeah. And I said, then you pick it up and you start working with it, you start bending, which again, mm-hmm. this is the top gauge of fencing, mm-hmm. which is it's heavier. So you cut that piece off first. And then this wire here, these are a little more, the gauge is more malleable, it's thinner, so you can bend it more. But so your main structure would be the heavier piece, but that just comes from playing with it mm-hmm. and seeing what evolves. So she learned that day that it's taking something that has no definition, has no explanation, has nothing. I mean, it's what you put on your property or your backyard, But for me, it's the actual medium to build or make what's in my head. So,
and having the feel, like you said, like with the weight and the different, like just kind of feeling how that gets put together.
Absolutely. And then listening to your clients, especially when they, like I said, the original pieces were baskets, more of a basket kind of a thing. And then people wanted them inside. They wanted wall pieces. So that put me in a new direction. And that's how these evolved, was from that, so that you can hang them on the wall and have them inside if you wanted to, or in your garden or something, but still,
I like the bringing the outdoors in.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, just having kind of more natural elements within your home.
Yes, absolutely.
And then so with the jewelry, which are also very shiny, I can see the light catches on them very well.
Yeah.
Is it similar, I guess the creative process for that, this is kind of like having the material and kind of putting it together in a way that makes sense. But with some of these, you're starting with the raw material and going, just creating something.
Yeah. I've loved jewelry forever. And in college, interior design and fashion design, I loved those classes. Those were, so I touched on a lot of different things, but the jewelry, I've always loved jewelry. So to be able to started with beadwork is how I started, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more freedom of expression, more freedom of making it mine. So the metal is and again, that comes in a square piece, and it's a piece of metal, and it's like, okay, what are you going to do with this? Just like my grandma, what are you going to do with this? So it's just this ongoing process that I really, really enjoy. But jewelry is definitely, I love jewelry.
Well, there's just so many. You can go from kind of these bigger pieces to like the uber delicate line and like the knots.
And that comes from listening to your clientele. Doing shows. COVID shut everything down for a long time, and not hearing that feedback from your customers or seeing what it looks like on their ears. You go by their jawline, you go by their neck, you go by, it's a whole dimension when you're dealing with jewelry. So, and everybody's different, and everybody either likes copper, brass, or silver. Not everybody likes silver, not everybody likes copper. So the mediums are just perfect to do something new and different for anybody. But I listen to my clients. I listen to my customers.
So that they can connect with that.
Absolutely.
Personally.
Yeah. I like that. I like that feedback. I want that feedback.
So where could folks find some of your pieces?
Just doing shows right now.
Oh, cool.
And I'm still working and still developing, so to speak. Next step for the bigger pieces is I have a welder now. Ooh. So I can't wait to start doing more pieces with the heavier metals that I have found or bought.
So you're playing with fire.
I love fire. Absolutely.
Amazing.
So so that's that part. And then of course the jewelry, there's so many in-depth, so many other things that you can accomplish and do, whether it's setting stones or there's just a lot. So I still feel like I'm in the early stages. I'm in the beginning stages. I still have a lot to learn when it comes to jewelry, and looking forward to it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And do you have like a website or anything where people can see your art? That's all what's getting started now. That's
exactly.
So exciting.
I'm probably a little technical challenged in some ways, but that I do have people that said this is your next step. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, absolutely. I feel your future's as bright as your jewelry.
Well, I hope so.
Bobbi, thank you so much for coming in and talking with me about your metalworking. It's incredible. It's so cool.
Thank you.
And wish you the best of luck. Can't wait to see it out and about more in the community more.
Absolutely.
But thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks. This is Courtney Terry, and this has been Arts Alive.